back. It's now 4 minutes away from 7 o'clock, and as promised before the break, we're sitting down to discuss the 20,000 strong rally for 2016. And joining us for this conversation, we have the Special Envoy for Women and Children, Simplis Barrow, and we also have the Executive Director of the National Women's Commission, and Marie Williams.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Belize.
Happy Women's Month.
Morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome to the
And
show.
to you.
Thank you.
We need men in the month too. So.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, it's been 2 years since the last 20,000 strong rally. So let's talk about what has been happening in between then in terms of advocating for the importance of women and just the role that they play in the wider society.
You can give them a brief of what we've been doing.
Well, we've been doing a number of things. 20,000 Strong is part of an initiative that entails different aspects of women's empowerment because it's a women's empowerment rally. We've supported prizes for the cross country for women. We're looking at an initiative this time, which I feel it's a real mega initiative. It's the launch of a funding opportunity for women at 2420 initiative, and it will be launched on that day, and Mrs. Barrow will be able to tell you a little bit more about that. But this 20,000 Strong initiative is really an opportunity for women to come together in solidarity to look at the marks we have made, are making, and hope to make. A number of times, women don't get the opportunity to just be in their own presence and to be in their own space and to celebrate each other, celebrate what we've accomplished. Although we've had some setbacks, things have been happening. And so it's just a moment to pause and to celebrate and take stock.
I'll touch base a little bit more on the initiatives that we've been having since the last 2014-2420. We've donated to the cross-country cycling race and the prize directly for women. As you know, there's a huge disparity in how much the female participants receive versus what the male receives, and we want to make sure that they get equal pay. It's the same race. So we've been pushing for more people to contribute to the women racing. We did an exhibit on women first, or women who have impacted Belize, women who have paved the way for all of us.
Milestones.
And it was called Milestones, and we featured so many different women. And what we did is, after that, we got so many people calling into the office saying, oh, I know this lady who I think should be honored, and we started doing it on our Facebook page. It so happened that then The Guardian took it and they started reprinting it in the newspaper. So every week we showcased one of these amazing ladies. We have had a couple conferences, and these conferences were really geared towards trying to find out exactly what is it that we can do to improve the lives of women. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was very clear was the financial constraints that most of these women have. Our women are very talented, and we do everything. I mean, we are moms, we are wives, we work, and we still have to come home and wash and cook and do everything else. Mm-hmm. It was an amazing group of women that we met with, and I think coming out of those meetings, we then had the entrepreneur conference. And there we were able to gather even more information. And so out of that came this idea of 20 for 20, which we can talk about that a little later. But we have been doing a number of initiatives. I mean, those are only a couple of them that we've been engaging in.
Let's look at the situation of women in the country. Because of course initiatives like these are important to empower people, but we also have to take stock how far we've come and where we are now. And the issue of empowerment very often, because there is a lot more visibility in terms of women who perhaps lead organizations or are taking on the lead in particular movements. But let's talk about where some of the critical areas are. In conversations that we've had here on the set, we talk about access to employment. We talk about entrepreneurs who can't get funding without bringing their husband into the bank or the financial institution, and some of the cultural barriers that we still have to overcome. So let's look at what we're facing in today's age.
Well, the issue of violence has been here, and it's ever present, and it's becoming sometimes even more rampant. Not sure if it's because there's more reporting or people are just committing more acts of violence, particularly against women, a whole lot more. But violence has been an issue. Gender-based violence is one of the areas that the MDGs tackle in terms of women's equality, and now the Sustainable Development Goals has taken on the initiative again. There's the issue of women's political participation, women in decision making. We saw 13 women ran for national elections, the largest amount ever, and we had 2 of the women who were successful. And so those are 2 of the issues that have been ever present, and the whole issue of parity and ties in with the team for Women's Month. The international team pledged for parity, and the local team pledged for parity, strong women, strong world, improving opportunities for women. So the issue of education, the issue of violence, women in decision making / political participation, women's economic empowerment, all those things have been with us. And it's amazing because 21 years after the Beijing Platform for Action and the Beijing Women's Conference, those were the areas Belize chose to have worked on, to say, if we work on this, it will make lives better for our citizens. And 21 years on, the topics are still relevant.
Yes.
Now, despite some areas where people may argue that there have been significant gains, education, for example, at the tertiary level, you see the predominance of females. So there are some areas where you may see,
this is what I'm saying,
an illusion?
No, it's not an illusion, but this is why I'm saying that we've had some gains.
An illusion in terms of moving towards equality for women and what may be defined as the new woman and her role.
Well, it's not an illusion, but my concern is that yes, while women are, like 5 years ago, women were actually graduating almost 3 to 1 from our national university over men. Today, it's like 2 to 1. But that's at the tertiary level. We still have a lot of women and our boys, but particularly our women who don't finish high school. If you look at the labor force survey and you look at the census, where you will actually hear that almost half of the population has at most a high school education. That tells you a lot, and a lot of women too. Part of the problem is to increase their labor force participation rate, because men work like twice the amount of men work to women.
And that's one of the points I wanted to point out, because we talk about the tertiary level statistics quite often, but that is a small percentage of women. But what's most concerning is that even if these women graduate from tertiary level institutions, are they getting the jobs?
Right.
Are they getting the same
entry
level? Are they getting the same salary? What are these statistics?
They're not getting the top jobs, because we see, look at education. There's lots of women who are look at the public service. Lots of women who are concentrated in middle management. Some are in top management, but most of the men are in top management. And so while they're graduating at a higher rate, it will take time. Maybe in the next 10 years, you will see some of the fruits, but right now, no. But we've made some gains.
Now, and I want to pull back to something, because obviously you spoke, both of you mentioned the cross-country for women. And we saw the uproar around the Facebook post by Kaya Katus talking about advocating for equality in terms of the race, and I can't remember the specific race, but it was a 5-day Valentine Classic. So we still look at women and their participation in sports, and
in all areas, as
in
less
all
than.
areas, it's still a huge challenge. So is that one area where you look at and you can say that describes perhaps more the relationship that women have in terms of looking at the overall society, and the perception very often that it's almost tokenism in terms of, yes, we have women participation in football or in this or in that, but it's not at the same level or gets the same amount of support as a male team would.
I think that we as women need to ensure that that doesn't happen. I think that as a society, and men who support women participation and equality, we need to ensure that it's not just a tokenism. It's not just, oh, we're going to appoint this woman just so that there's a woman around the table. That's obviously not the point. The point is that we have qualified, we have very intelligent women, we have hardworking women. Some of us work even harder than some men. I mean, and that's the truth. So we have to ensure that we sit around the table and make decisions at a high level. You cannot ignore 50% of the population at a leadership level. You really can't. It's impossible. So it hurts when you have people still questioning the reason of why a day for women. Because it just means that our fight continues, and I use fight just slightly. Our struggle continues, our educating our public continues. Sitting down with your daughters and your sons and educating them and letting them know, you know what, this is the reality. Yes, we have issues, some of our boys, we have issues with our boys, but it's everyone.
I think you bring up such an important point in terms of parenting, and this is one of the things that oftentimes when we speak about women empowerment becomes an afterthought. We talk about policy changes that needs to be done. We talk about being able to put quotas in place if necessary, legislating the type of changes and equality that we want to see. But there needs to be a focus on parenting, and there needs to be a focus on how we socialize our girls and our boys. Yesterday we had a conversation with the Children Advisory Board for the Child-Friendly Municipalities. And I think one of the most fascinating things that has still stuck with me, which I want to bring up at this point, is children pointing out, young girls pointing out sexual and street harassment. And I find it interesting because I think all of us women here, and even the men can acknowledge that we've been through it.
Yes.
We've seen it. We know it takes place. But for some reason or the other, we're not raising our men to be able to recognize that these actions are wrong. And we continue to teach young girls that our way of handling things is simply to ignore it and be passive. What is the plan for, I think the movements in terms of empowerment are so important, but when do we start speaking to parents and to would-be parents about our role in ensuring that young girls and young boys will make a different reality in the future?
Well, give me 1 second. I've done so many rallies countrywide at schools, primary school level, high school level, and my focus has always been, you start respecting yourself. You start with that respect, and giving that other person the respect that they deserve. It's with parents, whenever I'm with parents and talking to them, I tell them, you need to treat your boys and your girls the same. Your boys can wash the dishes and they can sweep the house. They can help you put the clothes in the dryer, or whatever. But you give them the same roles that you're giving your girls. And the same thing with your girls. They can help their dads do stuff around the house. It's also what you allow your young son to say and do to his sister. Just the simple hitting at a young age. Just calling each other names at a young age. You know, you have to sit and the conversation has to start at that point. Because they grow up and they think it's acceptable. Boys do this. This is what boys do. And so I always say it starts at the home, at that home level. And we just have to continue talking and talking and talking and never get tired of it. Yeah. We can't.
I think in terms of, and just to push it further, because I think this is such a critical topic that we don't want to brush it over. And I think maybe with it now in the open, and we had a bit of time discussing it yesterday, the issue of the street and sexual harassment, I think people don't realize how this can snowball into other issues that we see. It leads into workplace harassment. It leads into sexual violence, school harassment, sexual violence that we see in the broader perspective. In terms of critical areas that need to be addressed in looking at these type of issues, as the Women's Commission and even as the Special Envoy, how much is this a priority at this point in time?
Well, it will certainly be a priority for us, particularly since this morning when I leave from here, I go to set up and to strengthen the Gender-Based Violence Committee in Corozal and in Orange Walk. And that's part of the whole plan, to really zero in on the National Gender-Based Violence Committee and look at some of the ways how we can try very, very hard, make an earnest effort to try to continue to eliminate violence. And that is definitely a part of it. There's no definitive plan yet for a street harassment campaign, but I'm sure it will come up. Because these are things that have been with us, so much so that our culture changes, because culture changes, but that is part of a culture lag. It has been, it continues to fester and continues to fester, so much so that people, a lot of older men, well, you know, that's how I called her. 2 weeks ago, I was at the market and this man was saying to this woman, where they go on, babes? And the woman looked at him like, I'm not your babes. And when she dared to say that, he was like, so what happened to you? This sense of entitlement is like, he felt like he owned her. And I look at it and I said, you know something? The education must happen. But a lot of us look at it and think it's a big joke, or that's how we call our man, or that's how we go. Big deal. This is not how we go. You know, it's a form of education that has to touch everyone.
And there's psychological ramifications later on. We learn to accept these things. We learn to accept worse as we get older.
But enough of us don't talk about it, because when I would stop somebody in the tracks, the person say, you know, she's from Women's Commission. No, this is not how you treat a woman. This is not how you treat somebody, especially a little girl. You know, they're walking on the streets and it's a safety issue because they don't feel safe.
Now, I want to jump off into something, because we've been seeing on the news quite a number of women who have taken allegedly sufficient abuse that they end up
being the abuser.
Being the abuser, and in a few cases recently, actually killing their partner. Now, when you see something like that, you immediately think, what has led to that kind of a response? You know, whether it was a 50-something or elderly woman in the village, or what we saw just this week or this weekend. When you see a situation like that, how do you get people to look at that as a cause for a greater conversation? It's not a one-off case, because now we're seeing it more frequently, where women feel as if though they're backed up into a corner and they have no other choice. Do they?
Well, you always have a choice, but sometimes it's to recognize that you have a choice early on. Because whenever you're part of a domestic violence situation or intimate partner violence, if you're in it too long and you stay too long, you're psychologically damaged to a point that sometimes the abuser make you feel like, where are you going? Nobody will take you. Nobody wants you. And then, well, if nobody wants me, it's best I stay here.
Unfortunately,
it's damaging.
People that are in domestic abuse situations, they don't have the help in terms of counseling and in terms of rehabilitation with their spouses. Normally in other countries you go for counseling and you talk over your issues, and that sort of help to a certain point. But it's really very sad that our women feel like they have no choice. I always feel like just walk away unless you're being harassed and stalked.
But then the argument is that there is a lack of support services available. Yes. There is the establishment, giving credit where it's due. There is the domestic violence unit.
Yes.
And there still needs to be continued training. But in terms of walking away from the situation, there's a financial abuse that's taking place, and women oftentimes can't afford to leave.
Yeah. Right. It's difficult for those who find themselves in dire circumstances, particularly if they have low education or no education, they've never been employed, they have a lot of children, and they're dependent on the chief spouse, who is the abuser, and maybe nowhere to go. And so while it would be easy for us to sit here and say all the things that we would like to say for them to get out, and so it's been shown also too that even when a woman is in a situation where she's independent and can take care of herself, she doesn't leave until she is ready to leave. And that state of readiness takes place at a different level for everyone. But indeed, the support services, we really need to strengthen those types of services, because the issue is becoming more prevalent. And for younger and older women, it's like right across the board. And there's lots that haven't come to the surface as yet. So. And
since you brought up the topic about how it's very difficult, it's even more difficult for women to leave when they don't have that financial stability. Let's talk a little bit about 20 for 20. So 20 for 20 is basically an initiative that is coming out of the 20,000 Strong, and that's the focus that we will be doing for the next couple of years, whereby we're focusing on women entrepreneurship. And the whole idea is women supporting women. Of course, men can also support. Please don't ever get me wrong. We have to work side by side with our men. But when we talk about women empowerment, we have to recognize that we are our own worst enemies. That we tend to be the ones to pull each other down instead of lifting each other up. And so we want to create this whole environment of women empowering women. And so 20 for 20 is really an initiative whereby we'll be working, we're hoping we're in negotiation with BEST in Belmopan, where we'll be fundraising and we'll be helping women entrepreneurs to move to that next level, whatever that next level is, with small loans, small grants, and that sort of thing to get them financially viable. And hopefully we will see a number of entrepreneurs on the market very soon in the next couple of years.
You know, the support for women, I think, is one that perhaps we should always allow time for. Because it is one of the things that we struggle with, even with women in leadership, and we have so many examples to be able to cite in terms of this.
And it's lonelier up there.
And, you know, I think one of the things, we see different movements taking place. People are talking about leaning in. There's a campaign on banning the word bossy, that you encourage women to have girls to be told they have leadership skills instead of being told they're bossy. And I think the image as to what women in leadership is supposed to be like is one that is still yet to be painted in Belize. We oftentimes think that it must be a very assertive person. We often think it must be a very outspoken person. And while we do have great representatives in the country, are we heralding them enough in terms of showing our young Belizean girls that people with similar faces and similar features can still be recognized as leaders in our nation with many different personalities?
Well, I think...
And sharing the stories, most importantly.
I think the Special Envoy under the 20,000 Strong banner and the committee did that well in May of 2014 when we looked at the huge exhibition that opened at the House of Culture, Milestones, because we profile women who have achieved, are achieving, and we also looked at them in their different areas, women in politics, women in business, women in journalism, women who we have seen as a community pay their dues. And I feel what we don't do well, though, is a kind of mentorship that's important to keep leaders in the scheme of things and to promote younger women to come up to actually not only take over, but to work alongside, because where do we get the great experiences from if we don't expose them to women who are achieving or have achieved? We don't do that well as a country. I'll be the first to say that. And so that is an area for us to work on.
Now, we're fast running out of time.
Yes, and we have to talk about the Women's Empowerment Rally and where they get their buses and everything.
So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of the 20,000
It's this Friday.
Strong.
It's this Friday. And we want everybody to be gathered at the Fort George Memorial Park at 7:30 in the morning, because we leave at 8 a.m. for the Marion Jones Stadium. Now, this is what it's all about. Instead of the women from the villages drive to the Marion Jones Stadium like they did in 2014, we're asking them to be a part of the parade. So we should expect an even greater parade than 2014 with all the colors. If they don't have the official 20,000 Strong shirt, they can feel free to wear anything orange and just come out. It's to come in solidarity. What we're doing this year, we've taken the 5 main areas that Belize signed on to work on for women's empowerment, and we're doing banners in particular areas. We're doing women in decision making, women in health, anti-violence message, women in education, economic empowerment. So you will see placards as part of the march this year, and we go to the Marion Jones Stadium for our rally. And the rally will be a tremendous rally. We have 3 guest speakers, 1 keynote, who is a woman who's coming in, Cecile Watson, and we have Mappy Smith from Belize City, and we have Crystal Samos, and she's been here on this very same couch. So we have 2 women who are entrepreneurs, and we have Cecile Watson coming in. That will be enhanced by great music, uplifting music for women. It's a day that no woman or man who wants to come out should miss. The ecumenical choir will be doing the Our Father in Garifuna. They'll be doing the ceremony at the end. Oh, don't give out all? Okay. They will still come for more, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. All roads lead to Fort George Memorial Park at 7:30. And we go through to the Marion Jones Stadium with marching bands and all, and everyone in full force. I need to tell people though, if they're coming from the districts and they're still not signed up.
We had who the contact person.
I am not sure. I will just run through it quickly because I'm not sure that people signed. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So there are contact persons in each district to find out, and
where the buses will leave from.
And that's for transportation, and I'm guessing T-shirts too. You want
people if you want T-shirts, you can get your T-shirts at Caribbean Treasures. They still have T-shirts, and
I think Brody's also is selling T-shirts.
Okay, Brody's has. Well, just find an official T-shirt or an orange shirt. And orange, we're keeping the exact same shirt from 2014. We're using the color orange as the Unite campaign color against violence. See, one of the key areas as part of the 20,000 strong. So it's a wonderful opportunity. If you never made it out in 2014, this is your time again. And we will finish earlier this year. The whole parade and rally will last until 12:30. Okay. So we're asking employers too to give their to
organize and bring their
Well, we're asking the employers, we're inviting all organizations, all women organizations to join us on that day. We're whatever organization you're affiliated with, whatever groups you're affiliated with, religion, political, whatever groups, you come out and show your support and take a stand for women as we march together to support each other, really. It will be a great day, another great day for women in Belize.
And as you pointed out, it's the launch of the 2420?
Yes, it's the announcement of the 2420.
As part of the whole 20,000 strong initiative. Yeah. So women from police, women from the BDF, all of them will be out in full force. And we're just looking forward to it. Yeah, true. We're looking forward to it, and we want to encourage all women to come out.
And men.
And men. Men want to come because men need to come out to support the initiative.
We had men who, say they're ready. So
because if we're to continue to pledge for parity, then we need men as champions, because a lot of men are in the lead and they need to see the reasons why it is important to encourage and support women.
And men can be feminists too.
Yes, of course.
No problem.
Those are usually the better men.
All right. Well, Kim and Anne, we want to thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
And of course, we encourage people to participate. It's this Friday, and you can go first to the Fort George Memorial Park, and or join them a little bit later if time does not allow at the Marion Jones Stadium. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, it'll be to be joined by representatives from BTL to talk about their Digicel 4G LTE launch. Don't go anywhere. Open Your Eyes continues after these messages.